Get up and brush off the dew on that turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Cut it and roll that dew on that turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Set up, they about to come through on that turf today. Turf today. Turf today. Get up. Turf today. Get up. Turf today. Let's get out the way. Here comes first play. Let's maintain that turf today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Turf Today. My name is Adam Kershane, joined by my co-host, as always, Brian Lorenz. And this week we are sitting down with Tim Kelly, who is the golf course superintendent at Huntingdon Valley Country Club in Pennsylvania. And Tim's one of those people who brings equal parts professionalism, perspective, and personality to the job. We get into Tim's path from starting out at Saucon Valley to working major events like the Western Am and the BMW Championship. He also shares the moments that really matter most to him. Stuff like the day-to-day with his crews, the laughs, the long days, and the weird late-night takes that only turf people will truly appreciate. We also talk a little bit about his involvement with the Super Scratch Foundation and why its advocacy work is so important for the next generation of turf professionals. Before we go out to the country western music and hear about Toro, we do have to mention some news. We regret to inform everybody that we are not attending the Carolinas Golf Course Superintendents Association conference this year. Very, very frustrating week. Brian and I just went through trying to figure out if we were going to be able to make it down there from Canada. I know my wife and I have been very, very excited about this one. We ordered a lot of stuff, as you guys saw on Instagram, for the conference and had some fun stuff planned. So that is a tough one, but we are really looking forward to next year. We've already started planning some stuff with them for that conference. And of course, we're going to be at Orlando. So we cannot wait for that. We cannot wait to see everybody down there. Obviously, this is a little bit of a different conference, but there will be a lot of the same people. So a little bit long-winded, but we're very, very, very sorry we can't make it down. It's very unfortunate. There's a lot of people to thank for being so supportive about this, mainly everybody at the Carolinas chapter. You know, they've been so great with everything they've done to support us, and this is definitely a tough one. So look forward to seeing you when we can, either in Orlando or next year. We also have some other dates that'll be coming up at the beginning of the season where you could possibly see us in 2026. All right, grab that shovel. Let's dig into this thing. As you guys know, Turf Today is recorded on the Superintendent Network and is brought to you by Toro. When it comes to innovation in turf care, no one does it quite like Toro. From precision mowers to advanced irrigation systems, Toro's equipment is built to perform day after day, season after season. Whether you're maintaining a championship golf course or a local muni, Toro delivers the reliability and results you can count on. Trusted by turf professionals around the world, Toro continues to push the industry forward because great conditions start with great equipment. Toro, always solving, always evolving. Hey, big guy.
Happy Tuesday.
Yeah, Remembrance Day up here. Be Veterans Day in the States.
Yep, Veterans Day here in the States. Happy Remembrance Day.
Yeah, I don't have my poppy on. It's on my jacket right now. I wore it this
Poppy.
morning. Yeah, everybody in Canada wears poppies. Usually starts around November 1st and then right up to November 11th. Everybody wears a poppy, usually over their heart on their jacket, when they're out. So I should have thrown it on for the podcast today. Whoops.
So is that like a poppy flower?
Yeah, it's just a little plastic one.
Gotcha.
They have them everywhere. You make a little donation and you get one, and it's just it's just a symbol of Remembrance Day for all the veterans and everybody that's fought for our countries, and given us these lives, these free lives that we have now, because things could have been a lot different back then with what went down. So I know
Yeah.
my grandfather was actually in the Navy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so he
Nice.
was a gunner on
Nice.
a boat. I always used to hear stories about him, and he was one of those guys that did come back from the war and was able to kind of have a family and everything like that. So that was yeah,
Yeah.
always kind of had that in
That's
our
cool.
family, which is cool.
That's actually a picture of my grandfather when he was in the service. I think he was Navy as well. And then my other grandfather was Air Force, working on worked on planes and flew or was a part of rescue missions over water, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, definitely some service in my family as well. So I think I got my flag on here somewhere. So
There you go, beautiful.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
yeah, it was a different time, right? Like what a
Oh
crazy
gosh,
time. You go back and watch some of those movies and some of those documentaries. It's just a crazy time. So
the greatest generation, right? I mean,
that's right.
the greatest generation. You know, it's just it was certainly different back then, huh? I mean, think about what those guys go have gone through, and I, you know, 18 years old or whatever age they enlisted, they're still kids and going out to risk their lives for the country. It's just it's incredible. It's
Can you imagine if
absolutely
we had
incredible.
something like that today? Like
Oh my
the
God.
the people and all the volunteers and everybody that would get enlisted and stuff. It would be kind of crazy.
There'd be so many draft dodgers these days. It'd be insane.
Yeah,
It would. It's sad. It's really
just a
sad.
different time.
Yep. Yep. Totally a different time. But yeah. Yeah. So what's up with you?
Not too much. We're full on winter over here. Like there's just
Yeah.
won't stop snowing up here. So
Really.
hoping it's, I know we talked about it the other day, hoping it's a little bit of that false winter and we're still able to, have a melt and do a few things out on the golf courses because it
Yeah.
hit us a little quickly around here.
Yeah. It's crazy. Ours is getting pretty close to melting. Looking out at my neighbor's roof right now, it's pretty much all gone. My yard's pretty much dust free at the moment. So hopefully, like you said, hopefully we get a couple more days or we can get outside and do some stuff. It's just, it's so depressing for me.
It
I
is.
don't know what it is, man. It's just so depressing. It just right about now, you know, the gray skies set in for a couple months and I just don't like being cold in general. So it's, yeah, it's pretty rough, but my kids somehow love the cold weather. So
That's
whatever.
good.
Good for them. Yeah. Good for
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Once the seasons change, there's so many different things to do in the winter, but the time
Yeah.
change will get you, getting dark at 5 o'clock. It's
Ah,
just,
it's
it's so
brutal.
weird.
Isn't it brutal? My gosh, it's like 7 o'clock. I feel like it's time for bed. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know, and it's nice because there's a lot of sports on right now. I know there's not a lot of
Yeah,
golf, but a lot of hockey, a lot
yeah,
of football and stuff like that. So there is things to watch, and I find this a good time of year to start getting back into movies and things like that because it's
yeah.
a really good time of year for a lot of movies. I was up late last night watching Frankenstein,
Oh yeah,
the
how was
new
that?
one on Netflix. It was so good.
Really?
So good. Yeah. Like I'm a huge movies guy and that one was really well done. The acting,
Oh,
just the
nice.
directing, the whole story. Like I'm not going to give anything away, but I thought it was going to be like a monster, like thrasher kind of movie and it ended up being just a beautiful story and
Huh.
I was just going to watch a bit of it and go to bed and I was laying there watching it on my phone in bed and I'm like I'm up. I'm watching this whole thing.
Yeah,
There's no way I'm
yeah.
going to sleep.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so
We watched The Long Walk the other day.
oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we watched it with a couple of the older kids. It was interesting. I was thinking like, you know, a movie where it's basically just about kids walking for, you know, the movie itself 2.5 hours or whatever. I'm like, how good that can this be when there's like nothing going on but them walking, you know? But
Hmm.
it was turned out to be pretty cool. So some good
Nice.
messaging and yeah, it was good. Nice Stephen King flick.
There you go. Yeah, I have to get into that one. It's on my list.
Yeah, it was
But
good.
there's two for everybody out there. If you're looking
Yeah,
for some downtime, some movies, there's a couple good ones to definitely save.
yeah, yeah. No, they were good. I find myself now running out of stuff to watch. You know, I usually try and download some stuff that the wife wouldn't be interested in, and will watch those on plane rides or in hotels or whatever. But yeah, I've ripped through so many different series and movies and all that kind of stuff. And I'm a big documentary guy, so
Oh yeah.
I've ripped through pretty much every documentary on Netflix. So I gotta try and find some. So if anyone has suggestions, hit me up.
There's got
Stuff.
to be some good ones out there because I feel like
Yeah,
these days there's so many different shows, especially with
yeah.
YouTube and different creators and things. Like
Oh
when I
yeah,
was younger, you could kind of stay up on all the popular shows and all good movies that came out. You can kind of see everything. But these days, to catch it all and be able to take it all in, there's just too much.
I might have to bite the bullet and get into some YouTube golf stuff. The only
Yeah.
the only YouTube golf stuff that I've really watched is like the fried egg and some no laying up stuff from time to time. But I think the Grant Horvats and the Good Goods and even Bryson and some of that stuff, I might have to start watching that. And the wife will probably go upstairs and watch stuff in the bedroom. Me and some of the boys will be down watching it. So.
Well, you can give the internet invitational a shot too, because it's
Yeah.
really good. I don't know if you've watched
I've
any of it,
heard.
but it's unbelievable the production for that one. It's just a long, long one. Like they have 5 episodes and they're 3 hours each or something like that. So it's
Really?
it's a grind. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, I'll have to go check.
But
that
really
one
well
out.
done though. I'm sure once you get into it, you'll really, really appreciate it.
Nice, nice. Hey Tim.
Tim, what's going on?
What's up, fellas? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, buddy.
Of course. Appreciate
Nice
you coming on. You like that? I know how
Oh,
to
yeah.
suck up to the guests, buddy.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
I got my super scratch right here, so
Yeah,
you know I'm
boy.
gonna
There it
promote.
is. There it is.
Glad to see you're inside today. Did you get those messy plugs all dialed up yesterday?
Yeah, I was a little stiff getting out of bed today, scooping mud for a couple hours with the boys, but that's what you get. 20% chance of rain. Rains every time.
It's happening. Oh yeah. Especially when you got a big mess out there. They know.
Yeah. 90%. It hasn't rained in 6 weeks. 90% chance of rain. Not gonna rain.
We'll let you go make a phone call to our last guest, Garrett Bastardi with Flash Weather AI. You can bust the meteorologist chops for a little bit.
Yeah, they're always right.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, Tim, we like to dive right in. So we're recording, everything's moving forward. So we always just like to start things off by giving you the floor to introduce yourself and kind of tell us how you got into this industry.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm Tim Kelly, superintendent at Huntingdon Valley Country Club outside of Philadelphia. I actually grew up 10 minutes from the club. I live 10 minutes from the club now. So a bit of a homecoming, which is just strange in this industry. You never really know how it's going to work out. But, so I grew up here outside of Philadelphia. I worked, my first internship was at Saucon Valley Country Club, 2008, 2009 for the 2009 U.S. Women's Open. And then I worked at Manasquan River Golf Club for Matt Morrow for a few years out in New Jersey at the Jersey Shore. Over to Aronimink for 4 years for John Goslin, the BMW Championship in 2018. And then out to Chicago for 4 years. Yeah, about 4 or 5 years. And then back to Philly.
We've got the Saucon Valley thing in common there. What made you decide to go up there and work for Ronnie's crew up in Bethlehem?
Dumb luck. Just getting into the industry was super, super green. I grew up kind of around golf. My parents play golf. I played junior golf since I was a little kid, 6, 7 years old. I started
6, 7. Sorry, you can't let that go. I mean, it's all the rage with the kids these days.
Thank God. I got babies at home and I don't have to deal with 6, 7 right now.
Yeah, we're not there
let
yet.
this go away by the time my kids get older. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt there.
No, I don't understand it and I don't want to. Which
I don't either.
I think the whole point. Yeah.
We were at a lacrosse tournament over the weekend and there was a team that called them 6, 7 elite, and so they're all just walking around doing this. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, it
so
scares
lame.
me. But I also think about all the dumb shit that we did when we were kids. And I'm like, that's probably the same. Yeah.
Exactly. Our parents looked at us the same way. No question.
So, yeah, I was, someone had just introduced me, like a family friend had introduced me to the turf business. I was at Penn State, kind of a business major, didn't really know what I wanted to do. But I caddied. I worked at as a ranger and in the pro shop at like a little local public course. I caddied a couple clubs around here, played junior golf and just kind of always, whatever I could do to get some free golf and be around the game and get some money. But, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My grades weren't great. I was transferring from Penn State Altoona to the main campus and, to get into the business school. I don't think I quite had the GPA or I was probably borderline. And so somebody said, you love golf. Why don't you give this a shot? And then, looked at a couple other places, but went up to Saucon Valley. I kind of have a loose connection to Bethlehem Steel. Like my grandfather worked at Bethlehem Steel
Wow.
Nice.
And so there was kind of just, just that like loose connection there. It was right up 309. It was only like an hour away, but you could live there. And we just had an awesome crop of interns. And, I kind of fell in love with it and never looked back from there.
That's awesome. And then you mentioned going down to the Jersey Shore, and I'm just trying to do a little bit of math right now. Would that have been around the same time when the show was just off the rails?
The Snooki
When,
days.
oh, yeah, yeah.
Like the
Oh, that
actual
was
Jersey Shore?
prime. That was prime, yeah, Snooki days. So that was like we were in Manasquan, which is near Belmar, and so Belmar was like DJs, and it was like that real Seaside Heights vibe. So it was everything that you thought it would be, with the slick back and like the like that whole thing, And that's like I'm like an Irish, like I need, that's not my scene at all. So like I've been in there a couple of times, but like, it was, and the girls in there weren't looking for a dude like me, wasn't it at all either.
You weren't the Guido
So
they
it
were
was
looking for.
exactly, yeah, it was a good, like, we both hated each other. So, but there was thankfully plenty of other bars to go to and run around at the Jersey Shore.
So
That's
you didn't have a
incredible.
medium white shirt rocking?
No, man, no.
Gabs
I
it.
probably did. Yeah, it probably had signature on it, or like turf screen or something on it. If it had one. Yeah.
I love it. So did you have some good times where you may have stayed up till 5 a.m. and been at the course at like 5:15 during your time at the shore?
Yeah, there's a few of those nights. Yeah, a few of those. The thing about being at the shore too is like the bars were so crowded on the weekends. That was like Tuesday night and Thursday night were kind of like the nights to go out. And so you're in your early mid 20s. My buddy Frank Perone, who's still in South Jersey now, he manages a couple clubs. But yeah, he and I mean, it would just be like 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning. Maybe shut your eyes for 45 minutes. Probably not. Go hop on a sprayer at 5 a.m. Like Matt Morrow, like God bless him, would just look at us in the morning and just be like, God, like, come on, like, you guys got to be kidding me. And he'd be like, whatever, man, we're gonna get the fairway sprayed today. Like, I might throw up a couple times, but these fairways are getting sprayed.
At least we're here.
Yeah.
How did that experience then, when you guys are working hard, playing hard, how did that kind of develop that team unity and those bonds then with some of those guys you were going through it with?
Yeah, I mean, number one, it's like answering the bell, right? That's all of us. Like, you got to be able to answer the bell in the morning, and that's obviously tongue in cheek when you're out at the bars all night is one thing, but also like it's if you could tie it into a life lesson, it's like you got to answer the bell when other stuff's going on. You got stuff going on at home, or you got other things. You got to show up and do your job, and you got to be responsible for your area, and you've made commitments to people and the club that you work for and all that stuff, whether or not you realize that when you're 23 years old. And you may not, but Matt Morrow realized that about, and made sure that we knew that we had to be there and there were consequences, and that we were going to be held accountable. But ultimately the memories that I have and the times that I look back on, like, I don't have nearly as many on the golf course as I do like around the shop, or at a happy hour afterwards, or at a conference, or a night out, or whatever it is, just because that's when you're having laughs and making memories. Most of your memories on the golf course are like stressful, or like or like annoying, or something, something that happened with the weather that you're like, yeah, that was a real kick in the what. But and then you bounce back from that, and even like the wins that you have on the golf course, like good mentors are going to tell you, well, yeah, don't get too high and don't get too low. Like, you shouldn't even really, you don't want to celebrate too much, because everybody in this industry does. I mean, you have a bad day, you have a bad weekend, everything kind of turns around on you. So just trying to stay steady and enjoy those other moments, and just the time that you spend with the guys, and that become your buddies and colleagues and peers and friends this day that I still talk to, and text and break their balls, and kind of bounce ideas and stuff off each other now to this day.
The job is the catalyst to the good times.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you got a really good head on your shoulders. Does that come from your upbringing? Like some of these things you're talking about here, is that something you've kind of always thought about or always acted that way, or did that come from a mentor or, learning this business, kind of on the golf course?
Yeah, first and foremost, super lucky. My parents are awesome. I've got an older brother and an older sister, and we're all really tight. I don't come from the golf business. I don't come from any sort of an agricultural background. My father was schlepping around the city, Philadelphia, in sales, records and document management, nothing to do with grass. I joke that my dad's about as handy as a foot. He grew up in an apartment in Mount Airy. He never cut a blade of grass. He's a 6 handicap, but that's about the only work he's ever done on a golf course. And my mother worked at Abington Hospital, which you can stand on the fourth tee at Huntingdon Valley now and see the Abington Hospital. But she worked there for 40 years as a nurse and a nurse practitioner, and weekends. And I remember her going back to medical school to be a nurse practitioner when we're like young kids, and like she's got textbooks open on like my grandmother's like cookbook holder, and she's got like some medical textbook open, making dinner, like yelling at us to do our homework and all this stuff, and then like going to work on Saturday morning, right? So that was just how we grew up, and they worked their asses off to give us an awesome life. And and that's not lost on myself, my brother, my sister, of course. But then that's developed through like probably why I fell in love with the work and the industry, and then developed through mentors and other superintendents and friends, and the competition amongst interns and assistants, while also having each other's backs and having good times as well.
So you mentioned you started at Penn State, but then I know you're a Del Val guy. So talk about the transition from Penn State to Del Val. What made you want to do that?
Yeah, I didn't want to do that. I was just, I just couldn't get out of my own way. Like I try to relate to it. Like I used to be real shy about it, or, just quiet about it, whatever it was, because, people don't need to know about you. But now, as you become more of a mentor and you've got people from all different backgrounds and at different stages in life, it's helpful to know that, like, you weren't always on a great path. Like you might have been on a great path, but you might have also strayed from that path a little bit or done a couple things. So I was just, into extracurricular activities at Penn State. I went to Penn State Altoona, and then once I got up to main campus and turned 21, I was like, well, this is the greatest thing ever.
It's easy to do there.
yeah, it's easy to get lost in the mix there. But, and again, like having great parents, like my grades weren't there and they were like co-signing my loans. So like, listen, your grades aren't there. You come home and you get a job and you go back when you're ready to go back. And at that point, I was working at a bar and I was working on a golf course, and, it was kind of like, how am I going to finish school? Penn State World Campus wasn't really a thing at the time. And so it was like, I'm going to have to move back up to Penn State and finish my classes there and kind of, pay and live on my own, compared to I could live at home and transfer to Del Val. And listen, like I was not in a good spot. Doc Lindy took, in terms of like my grades were not good, and Doc Lindy was awesome at Del Val and took me in, and I was working 2 jobs and trying to finish school, and it took me a couple semesters to finish. But it was amazing what happens when you actually apply yourself and give a shit, and you sit in the front of the class and you take some notes and you study and all that stuff, and you're not just worried about the next party or the next bar or whatever you're going to go to. So it was just being an immature kid, and thankfully having good parents, and I had a soft landing spot when I came home. I just was able to live at home and get a job, and then go back to school and finish. And it was about that time that, I'd done a couple of years at Saucon Valley. I worked at Old York Road because it was right down the street. And that was at that time that Matt Morrow at Manasquan River, Matt had left Saucon Valley. Matt was the superintendent of the Wayhill course, and he had left Saucon Valley. And, he and Mike Broom were good buddies, and I worked for Mike Broom on the old course. And I think, Mike and Matt, called me and said, hey man, you want another shot? You want to come out here? And I went and worked for Matt for 4 years, and it was awesome. And as much as Matt needed a guy and a body, like I needed that. I needed to kind of get out, get get, into a better situation and kind of start my professional life and grow up a little bit.
So at that time, did you know you wanted to be a superintendent? Was it kind of on your radar? And what kind of ultimately led you to that turning point?
For sure. I kind of knew I wanted that from the start. Like I loved that aspect of it. Like I always knew when I got to Saucon Valley, even in the beginning, I was like, that's what I remember the guys like giving the morning meeting and being like, I want to do that. Like that's what I want to do. I love like the teaching and the leading a team and the teamwork aspect of it. And so I kind of never straight. It was really just, academically. Like I was always great at work and I was always, answered the bell in that way. It was just, I just didn't take school as seriously as I should as a young kid. But at the same time, I always kind of stayed the course with that in terms of, um, always wanting to be a superintendent or, at that time I wanted to be an assistant, I was an intern or whatever. I don't even know if we called them AITs back then, but I was kind of an aspiring to be an assistant and always trying to take on more responsibility and learn more and spray and be the fastest guy to mow intermediates and be the fastest guy to do this and that. Right. Um, and so I kind of never strayed from that. It was just a matter of, taking it seriously, outside of work too. And, just maturing, really growing up.
Yeah, like our buddy Scott Bordner says, right? Give me your C students. I don't need your A and B guys. Give me your C students. And I think it's probably when you went to Del Val, it was probably maybe a little easier for you because you're probably more focused on your actual turf classes versus maybe some of those general ed classes. So you probably were a little more interested in what you were learning there, a little easier to focus on what you're doing academically, right?
Yeah, and it was more applied,
Yeah.
it was more, you'd kind of been out and seen some things and done some other things, but also, it's just it's really just the value of applying yourself as well, and um just Doc has nice small classes there. It's interactive. I see now he does the kind of screen free Fridays where he's taking the kids out and doing um whether it's drainage or looking at turf plots and things like that. So Del Val was a great landing spot and met some really cool guys there, even though I was a little older. Um, guys that I still am in touch with today, and yeah, but it was a little bit more focused at that time, and also more than anything, I was more focused.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
We get a lot of guys that either come through some of those big programs like Penn State or Ohio State or Tennessee or Georgia or whatever. But you know, I don't know that enough people know about Dr. Lindy. Talk about Doc Lindy as a mentor and as an educator, because he's doing some great things at Del Val. There's no question.
Yeah, and quietly their program has grown, and you know the guys that have come out of there and kind of the network that he's built locally and also kind of into the Midwest and up to the Northeast. Again, it's very hands-on, it's very intimate. He knows every kid, knows a lot, knows a lot about them, gets to know them. He coaches the golf team. Working with Steve McDonald, who helps out there as well. And so he just kind of tries to prepare you for what's ahead. I mean, you never really are. You can sit in a class and discuss concepts, but it's really until you get out there and see it. But it's real. Once you do get out there and you see it, you realize, oh, I do have this baseline. I have this baseline of the science of understanding of what to expect, and then the back end of that is also setting you up with the right mentor, setting you up in the right position for your summer internship or for your first job or whatever it is, and being able to connect those dots and kind of read, hey, this guy's probably ready for this Saucon Valley type of thing or Muirfield Village type of thing. This guy might need a stepping stone. This guy might be better for this area, guy or gal. So and it's important for us to also be part of that conversation and to say, we'll be honest with our program. Where are we? Do we have spots for both those types of people, right? Somebody that maybe isn't ready to go to Marion yet, but we want to get them ready, or somebody that's a stud, but maybe wants to be a little bit more involved in a place that has 8, 9, 10 interns, involved in different things or on a smaller crew or whatever it might be. So we have a big part of that discussion, but Doc is awesome to just, really, really keep in touch with his Del Val guys and really keep in touch well with the current students.
Awesome. So Tim, take us through getting your first superintendent job. That must have been pretty exciting.
Yeah. I was fortunate to land at Aronimink for John Goslin. You kind of have a plan. When we were coming up, it was always like you had to get to a top 100 to have a shot at getting a job. I hope that's not true anymore. It might be. I mean, I guess it really depends. But, I kind of settled into that, and I had, you look at maybe some majors that are coming up or where you're gonna wind up, and you make a plan, and of course, everybody's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth or whatever it is. Like your plan 5 years ago is way different than where you end up. But through those same connections, like Matt Rogers got the job at Gulf Mills. I used to work for Matt Rogers also at on the old course at Saucon with Mike Broom. And Matt left Aronimink to go to Gulf Mills and kind of tipped me off. And I got my application into Aronimink, worked for John because I know that John places guys, and not only because John places guys, but he gets them ready. He places successful superintendents, guys that step into the job and really do well. And, the list is long, but that first job, it was right after the BMW Championship in 2018. So it was kind of like right up. The championship was in August, and so right leading up to that job had opened up, and obviously, it was crazy, and we were, tournament prep and advanced week and all that stuff. So I had kind of heard about it from a buddy out there, and John was just like, "Listen, like, just focus on the tournament right now, and we'll hold on to this job for a little bit." And I was able to apply like right after the BMW Championship. I think at the end that same week, like the week after the BMW, I applied for that job. And within 3 or 4 weeks, I was like packing up and moving to Chicago. So that was Exmoor Country Club, on the North Shore of Chicago, which is just an incredible club, an awesome place. And was really, really fortunate to get that job. I was 30, 31. That was my first head super job, and that place was an awesome old Donald Ross golf course. It's in that like North Shore of Chicago where you throw a dart at the map and you find like an incredible golf course. And I really learned a lot. I mean, you don't know what you know or how much you know until you really get in the seat and figure things out. But it was a really great landing spot. The membership was incredible and incredibly supportive. I had taken over for a guy that did really an awesome job for 35, 38 years. The shop was really nice. The equipment was great, and was able to kind of seamlessly step in and make some positive improvements. Really kind of cut my teeth and learn how to do the job. And again, a really good group of guys out in Chicago, some Philly guys that are in that area. So I was able to connect with a few of them, but also just a good group with their Midwest Association, the Chicagoland Superintendent Association, are really strong and really welcoming. I mean, I was a total outsider. I barely knew anybody at all, and really, really welcoming group of guys out there.
We'll have to talk to Adam DeRossi and see what he has to say about what he inherited out there at Exmoor. So he might
not good. I'm sure it's not.
Yeah. I love it.
I left him some low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. I'm sure it was great. You talked about the program and the way that John kind of puts things together, plan in place to move guys along. Is that something now that you're kind of taking that same template and looking to implement there at Huntingdon Valley?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's necessary, to try to always have progression and growth, and it's a fresh perspective of ideas. It's empowering your guys and empowering your team to be able to make decisions, make mistakes, and learn from them, and then be a part of the process moving forward, and analyzation and kind of discussing how we can get better all the time. But we try to think about it like guys are on this rise, and we're trying to catch them at some point along that rise, and help them to rise faster or keep the same pace, or figure out what their next play is. That 3 to 5 years kind of seems to be a nice spot there where that can extend longer as guys are moving up in the program, but to really make sure that they're feeling fulfilled, that they're feeling like they're constantly learning and growing and making themselves better, but also that there's not stagnation at the top, that you get to that point and then you try to move on from there. And ultimately we know that this industry, assistance compensation has gotten better, right? But since a few years ago. I mean, I'm not that old, but even when I was coming up, it wasn't great. And so the big jump was when you become a golf course superintendent, and there's a limited number of jobs, there's a limited number of spots, and it's hard to keep that job. So get them ready and to not only get that job, because a big part of it is the interview and how you carry yourself, and it's a completely different conversation in a golf course superintendent interview with board members than it is, or search committee members, than it is with, sitting down with John Goslin or sitting down with another superintendent. You're just speaking a different language. But also to be able to, succeed once you get there, be able to communicate and be able to do the job on your own, and understanding that, like, there's nobody left to ask, right? You can call your buddies and say, hey, what do you think about this? But, they're not going to, it's not their ass on the line if it's wrong, So it's ultimately your decision, and there's nobody left to ask. And so I try to just empower the guys as much as John did with us, where give them the tools to be successful and give them the concepts, but understand that everybody's different. Everybody's going to have a little different pace or a little different cadence. But to understand the goals, the end goals, and what you want to be. And then the tools on how to get there, and whether or not we're going to be a club that can place golf course superintendents directly. I would love to. I mean, Huntingdon Valley's got the name and we got a great golf course, but, and we were able to place a few guys from Exmoor. Two of my lead assistants got head jobs, one in Illinois, Dan Perkle, and then Ryan Williams, who's actually now at Country Club of Salt Lake, is down in Utah. So, Exmoor is not a place that many had heard of. I hadn't heard of from Philadelphia, but you go to Chicago and people know it, and it's a great family club. And so we would love to be that. I'd love to be able to place guys from here. But we might also be a stepping stone. They might go from here and do a couple years at Marion or Aronimink or Cricket or whatever it is, and then jump from there. But at the end of the day, it's all depends on the person, depends on their what they're looking for and what their skill set is. But just trying to get everybody ready and get them to the next level, which is making money and raising a family.
We are back with another Ask the Agronomist segment featuring PhD agronomist Tony Goldsby from the Andersons. Our question today comes in from Anonymous. What role do universities and research programs still play in driving agronomic progress?
Awesome. Well, thanks, Adam, for having me on the show again this week. And obviously, coming from, getting a professional degree, that's a interesting question. And, I think, honestly, they're still foundational, and maybe it's just a little bit different than even 20 years ago when I was in graduate school and in the university system. I think back then they were really still the main engine of innovation, right? So there wasn't as many independent validators out there in the market because they were doing a lot of that validation. And now when I think about the R&D side, especially with, private companies, they're able to move so much faster than maybe we were even able to 20 years ago. And developing new technologies, whether it's, humics, controlled release, fertilizers, microbials. There's so much going on right now. And I think really where the university comes into play now more is really grounding that innovation in some amount of objectivity, right? So when a superintendent's able to see data from a land grant university like I attended, or any school, instead of just taking a manufacturer's word that the product works really well, that's where you see that, credibility meet, superintendent confidence, which is what you want, right? Ideally out there in the industry. So that's an important aspect. And then I don't think we should also overlook the role they certainly play in training the next generation of, turfgrass management students and understanding both turf science and data interpretation, right? The superintendent of, tomorrow isn't just going to be managing, turf grass, which many of them aren't today either, but they're managing data, obviously, and sustainability and business risk that's probably going to be even higher than it is, today, 5, 10 years down the road. So, any of those universities that are able to kind of integrate all that into their turfgrass management programs are obviously going to really help us in ensuring that we can keep this industry sharp.
Great answer, Tony. And I know when I first joined a golf course, I fell in love with it. But then going to school, you're just blown away with how many resources are there and how many people are there really trying to push all of that and the research and development side of things. And it was a decade ago, so I can only imagine things are progressing as we go. So great answer there. Like we always say, if you guys want to reach out and get a question on here, Dr. Tony is always ready with his answers. So reach out to us or somebody from the Andersons. This wraps up another Ask the Agronomist segment featuring Dr. Tony Goldsby from the Andersons. From the Andersons, leaders in turf innovation, comes the SR 2000 Pro rotary spreader. Built for professionals who demand precision, power, and zero compromise. With the Andersons' patented cone system and edgewise side spread control, you'll get perfectly even coverage. No streaks, no waste. Its heavy-duty stainless steel frame and maintenance-free gearbox are made to last season after season. The 80-pound hopper, fast action shutoff, and quick setup keep you efficient and on schedule. When you spread with confidence, your turf certainly shows it. The SR 2000 Pro from the Andersons. I just wanted to go back to that flag over your left shoulder right now, the BMW Championship. You guys had a late night that one tournament. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was I forget what day it was. It was like maybe early in the week because everything ran together. But your advanced week, you're grinding out, and it was advanced week, as everybody knows, is kind of worse than tournament week. Not kind of, definitely worse than tournament week because you don't have all the volunteers, and it's the final pieces of putting all the grandstands up, and there's just like the NBC truck shows up and they're crazy and they're setting all. So it's like all these the finishing touches are nuts, and then so you're like a zombie. You're barely sleeping and you're there at 3:30 in the morning. You're there till 9 o'clock at night. And so the one night they're putting up this giant. The 18th green has like 3 cars sitting up top that they craned in, and the screen up top is just massive. And so they've got these giant 55-gallon drums that are holding the TV, or like the counterweight for the giant screen above 18 green. And so they're looking at it, and like the floor is starting to bow on the 3rd floor of the thing. So like, well, we got to get up there and empty some of the water. There's like 40 of these things. So of course it's 10 o'clock at night, and Rich Reimers, who's the glue that holds Aronimink together, their irrigation tech, and Greg Marsala, who's the other assistant there, and myself are up there like taking turns like sleeping for 20 minutes while the other guy runs the trash pump down the hill to like empty these things out. So we're like doing all this, and it's like taking hours, and we're like delirious and laughing and like joking around and whatever. And then we see somebody. It's like I swear it was like 11 o'clock at night. We see somebody driving out to like the 17th tee to one of the like concession stands, the tents, and then you see the car just kind of like go sideways and the lights like this, and we're like, oh no. So we wound up having to pull this lady out who was trying to like put some merchandise in late. She's like, oh, I didn't really know where I was going, and I tried to turn around, and she wedged her car like on the side of the service road, like where there was a steep bank. And so we're like, on top of that, we got to go pull this lady out, and yeah, that was those are the memories you have from those tournaments, which kind of make you smile how crazy it was.
I say the actual golf course prep is probably the easy part during tournaments, right? It's all the ancillary things that cause the most headaches, isn't it?
Yeah, like you've had the schedule made for 6 months, like how many greens mowers you're going to have, and approach mowers and backpack blowers and whatever. You just kind of hit play and make sure everybody's here and get everybody out there, check everything. It's the other stuff, and it's the advanced week stuff that you're like, you want us to do what? Like, okay, all right.
So you planning to go back for the PGA Championship next year?
Yeah, definitely. A couple of the guys that were interns for me in 2018 are still assistants there. And Dave Stefanik, who's the lead assistant over there, was at Hollywood actually when I was in Manasquan. So Dave and I have known each other a long time. And so it's nice, like that BMW Championship, it was nice to have guys back that knew the golf course, like previous lead assistants, like Pat Mitchner at Bitterman, Matt Rogers at Gulf Mills, Scott Blau, who worked for John and was at Aronimink. So it's nice to kind of have those guys that know the operation, know some of the people. You can give them a radio and make them a back nine captain, a front nine captain, to just kind of move things along and help everybody. And so to just be a resource for those guys, I'll do whatever they need us to do, but just to be there for them for the week and help organize the chaos a little bit. But I'm really happy for that, man. John's just received the Eb Steiniger Award from the PAGCS, the Philly Association kind of Lifetime Achievement Award. And we went to that dinner and it was awesome, and really pumped for John and the team over there, because they're crushing it. And I'll be excited to see the whole golf world come to Philly.
Yeah.
Should happen more often.
How important is that for you to be able to go back and support John and some of those assistants that you've developed the relationships with over time?
It's everything. I mean, it's I owe so much to John, and whether he even realizes it or not, just the kind of quiet confidence that John had and the way that he carried himself. And but also at that dinner, the biggest takeaway it was John's kind of invest in your people. That was his. Turf comes and goes, and weather and members and all the different things, and technologies change, and they're going to change even more rapidly, but what's going to become probably even more relied upon and even more of a niche is taking care of and investing in your people. And so there's a front end of that and a back end of that. And so to be able to help out on the back end and just see those guys and their success and just have that week of being able to celebrate how hard you've worked and the team effort that's going into that. It's really it'll be cool to kind of stand on the sidelines and see it and just be there to support whatever we can.
It's cool. I feel like you're kind of in the middle right now. You have guys older than you that have really helped you along your way, and now you're kind of in that transition period where you're really helping a lot of people coming up behind you. So just talk to us a little bit about your philosophy and, kind of how you direct your course, how you're the sort of the boss, the coach at your golf course, and sort of what you see for the future of your program.
Yeah, the coach is really what I love about it is every time you can't drive across the golf course without stopping 10 times, right? And so what I tell my assistants, like every guy that's doing every single job can use a couple of pointers. Like they can use a couple things to say, hey, you don't want to micromanage your people, but I can't drive by a guy who's mowing a green and not say, hey, make sure you get all the way onto your plastic and then start that turn, or, you got to blow before and after. It's like simple stuff that you tell your guys all the time, but at the same time, to try to at the same time kind of have a touch point, check in, be there and either have a chuckle with the guy or have a hey man, come on, pick it up. Like I've told you this 3 or 4 times now. Like we got to make sure we get this right. But really just empowering our guys to do the same thing, to understand that can't just happen from me. Like that needs to happen from multiple people, and nobody else is going to drive that bus, like that effort bus, and that really motivating the guys and making sure that we are remembering our standard, raising our standard, and trying to just reach to a new level every day. Because if you guys aren't the ones, living that message and saying that message, then who else is going to drive this? So, and when you get to your next job, there's really not going to be anybody. You're going to have to change the culture on your own. You're going to have to, figure out all those nuances on the fly. So, the one thing in common is just working hard and taking pride in what you're doing and focusing on the task at hand. And, and so, with my team, it's just trying to open lines of communication. My door is always open, and the guys can always come talk to me about. I mean, they know that they occasionally might not like the answer, but they're going to have questions answered and be direct and also understand why we're doing something, or not be afraid to ask why we're doing something, or to say, hey, I want to get a little more involved in this process or that process. And really just passing that message down is for them to also invest in our crew, right? Like to invest in the team that we have, and to make sure that those guys feel like they have a purpose and they understand, the goal we're trying to achieve out here.
So, Tim, taking kind of a look at the industry as a whole, you mentioned when you were kind of coming up, the scarcity of jobs and the competition to get jobs. Maybe 10, 20 years ago, a good job opens up with an assistant job specifically. I mean, you're probably going to get a ton of applicants. Are you seeing a reduction in the number of people that are applying for some of these assistance jobs, and kind of where do you see our industry currently? And I think guys like John probably going to be retiring very soon, and there's a number of guys kind of at that level. Where do you think we are in the pipeline of superintendents today?
Yeah, there's definitely everybody's kind of talked about the lull, and with the Super Scratch Foundation, we've kind of honed in on that, and we're hoping. It looks like we're a little bit on the backside of that, where enrollments are starting to increase, but I don't think. I don't think it's quite as much as it was, where it was you're getting 100 applications for an assistance position. I don't know if it's guys, the generation below mine are maybe a little happier at smaller clubs, if they're feel like they're learning, at their pace, or there's enough programs out there that are a little more hands off, or more hands on, where they're not chasing to go to a top 100 right away. And now I don't know if that's like an hours related thing, but or the fact that wages have come up and it's made it a little more sustainable to be at a mid-level club, right? I think what's the kind of result of that? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Ultimately, I think it's a good thing. You don't want to see guys struggling. You don't want to see guys, barely able to, having to really scrounge and save money just to come up in the industry, while also paying off your student loans, or doing whatever, and having to pay rent. A lot of times you're also like living on the North Shore of Chicago, where it's not cheap. You're living in a very affluent area, and we're kind of expecting guys to be able to foot the bill. So, I don't know that I've necessarily seen that much of a shift. We still get a decent amount of applicants when we apply. Anytime I've had assistance positions available, but at the same time, we also trust our networks a little bit, where you can find guys, through colleagues and through friends, or at least hone things down. But at the same time, I think it is ripe for opportunity. If part of this discussion is raising budgets, or at least shifting the mindset of superintendents to allocate more of their budget towards, the assistants that are working 55, 65, 75 hours a week, depending on the time of year, to advocate to their club that we got to pay these people. They're earning that money. We got to pay these people a little more. We got to, try to retain them, try to hang on to them. And just not necessarily like looking at it as percentage points in a dues increase, right? Like, this is what our budget has to make room for. Our labor is our biggest allocation. Our assistants and our interns and that are the engine of that. They're the guys that are executing that, and to make sure that it's livable for them, but also that they still have that drive to go get a head job and to go get on their own. Or at the same time, making that like lead guy be livable. Like, not everybody has the same program where they want to do 3 to 5 years. Some guys like having a guy there that's just their right hand man, and it that can be the highest end club to a mid tier club to a public facility, or whatever it is. But I think we just have room for everybody, just in different capacities. And especially as things start to get more technical, and as we get more into whether it's robotics or AI or whatever it is, there's going to be more of those technician jobs and more specified areas that I think we can accommodate for, irrigation techs and spray technicians and that kind of thing. But yeah, we'll see. We hope it's an uptick, but we also just hope that it kind of fills out in the middle class, right? That it's not just 20 guys going to Marion and Muirfield every year. That it's kind of spread out, because you can learn something everywhere, and your local country club is hiring, right?
Yeah.
Like you ride your bike to your local country club, they'll probably give you a job.
Yeah. You talked about advocating on behalf of your staff to, get them a pay increase or something like that. How do you approach that conversation with whether, whoever it needs to be, your greens committee, your GM, your board, whoever it has to be? How do you approach that conversation with them to showcase the value of the guys that you're trying to get bumps for?
As much as you can not have that conversation is the best way to do it, is to just say, this is my budget and this is what we're doing. This is what we need to do to run the business. In an ideal world, you have to build the trust of your membership, and you have to understand that this is what we're doing. Now, if you're getting into the nitty gritty of, hey, how come person X needs to make this, I think they should make $5,000 less than that. If you're having that conversation with a member, it's just be like, well, okay, what does that person do? Do you have any idea what he does? Like, do you know what time he gets here in the morning? Do you know what time he leaves? Do you know what time is, how many weekends he works and all those things? So, to try to just, we have that data backed up, but to also just get to that point of saying, listen, these guys are working more than probably anybody at the club. I know there's assistant GMs and people in the kitchen that are pulling a lot of hours and this and that, but the sacrifices that we ask these guys to make, and the dedication that they have, to kind of do whatever it takes, if it's evenings, if it's 3:00 in the morning, if it's holiday weekends, if it's whatever it is, they're worth every penny. And just trying to, we understand that, put it on paper and make it digestible for your membership, for your greens committee, not your membership as a whole, but for your greens committee or your general manager, and having that on paper, but also really just having the conversation of let's also look around the club, what's everybody else doing, and the kind of hours that they're making. We're looking to be compensated equally as these other folks, whether it's F&B or golf or rackets or whatever it is, because there's no difference. There's the same level of education. What we do is extremely scientific. There's extremely artistic, and the amount of feeling it out and decisions that you have to make. You got to make 100 decisions a day. And those decisions impact a living, breathing organism. There's trillions of grass plants on the golf course. So, as you dive into it, usually when I get this deep into a conversation with a member, they're like, okay, I get it. Yeah, like it's fine. It's just do whatever.
Ultimately, the golf course is the biggest asset for the club, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's why people join the golf club or the country club or whatever. I mean, it's very few are based on social activities. And yeah, there's obviously all that, but in most cases, that's a loss leader. The golf course is what people join for, right?
Yeah, it's an unpopular conversation, but we're the sole economic driver of the club, right? Now that's not every single club, but that's mostly true. And everything else is an amenity to the golf course, and doesn't mean that it's less important. It doesn't mean that it doesn't have a place here. But I'm a firm believer that the golf course is the rising tide that lifts the rest of the ships, and that we're kind of a cruise ship, and there's some tugboats floating around. In terms of what really matters to members, and it's not that they don't care about the pool or the food or whatever it might be, but it's just the reality of the situation. We're really the sole economic driver, and golf, I don't know, it's had proper representation for a long time, and golf maybe the golf operations side of things has, and you see a lot more of that side of things. But for my money, the superintendent should be just as involved in any single one of those conversations as anybody else. It's the amount of things that you deal with and the amount of flexibility and ability to pivot that we need to have. It's all operations and it's all efficiency and common sense has to rule the day, and ultimately we're running a business here, and it's a big part of it.
I love that. It's the only ship or the only boat that cannot sink. It's got to stay up. That's perfect. Well, you guys didn't hear it, but we had our flash of lightning that just came through. So we'll do our lightning round presented by Flash Weather AI. Your heads up before the skies light up. I'll have a little bit of fun here, Tim. Just a few lightning round questions for you. All right.
Sure.
Would you rather have a full rain day or a long frost delay?
Yeah, I would probably say full rain day. I would probably say full rain day. Usually it's a nice, like, depends on the time of year, obviously. When you're airifying and you pulled a bunch of plugs in the morning and it rains on them, I would say no, which is what
Too
happened
soon,
to us
maybe.
yesterday.
Too soon.
That burns a little bit. Yeah, my thighs are still cramped a little bit this morning, but yeah, that rain day usually comes at a nice time, which it's like, you've been in a drought, and then clean the shop, and you have some donuts with the guys, cut the guys loose, take your assistants out for a beer, whatever it is. That's usually those kind of days where we're like, okay, guys, we made it to the rain. Let's go enjoy this one and then hit it hard tomorrow.
Nice. That's a great answer. If you get the opportunity to, what is your go-to lunch on the course?
Go to lunch on the course. This time of year, man, I got to switch it up. This is when I start getting in the office and I start getting fat. So I usually switch from the hot dog to the chicken salad. Usually is where I'll go at the halfway house.
Do you go with the cup or do you go with the sandwich?
I go with the cup. Like if I'm trying to, I might as well cut the carbs out at the same time. But yeah, usually that and a can of Gatorade is the way to go. Nice ice cold can of Gatorade.
A can of Gatorade.
Oh
wow,
yeah, man.
That's specific.
Revelation there. Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen one of those in a really long time. They certainly don't sell them up here. All right. Favorite course you've ever played?
Shinnecock, for sure. Shinnecock. I went on a crazy run last year where I got invited to Pine Valley, I got invited to Fisher's Island, and then I got invited to Shinnecock, kind of back to back to back. And all three times was like, that's the best golf course I'll ever play in my life. And I think it was true all three times up to that point. So yeah, Shinnecock was just the best, just so understated, and the architecture was just incredible. And Flynn, and obviously being in Huntingdon Valley, a big Flynn guy, but I feel like that's our niche. I mean, of course we want to be Shinnecock. That sounds great, but we've got a cool routing, and Flynn did a really good job, cutting this golf course into the hills and into the valley. And did the same thing at Shinnecock. The routing's a little different, but the green complexes are just awesome. And the way that the game's played on the ground, you got to bounce the ball in, and you got to really listen to your caddy, and some blind shots and some funnels and cool stuff. So yeah, you got to play a lot of shots in the bag, which is the best.
No
Love
flat
it.
lies.
Love it. When it comes to the entirety of the golf course, what is your favorite mowing pattern?
Favorite mowing pattern would be the sweep. We used to mow everything tee to green at Aronimink. We had the routing that we could kind of, like, there was only a few holes that you had to kind of double back on. So that way there's no lines at all. Like, I hate stripes.
Oh, so just all cut in one direction, so you can't even tell.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no.
Best.
So
That's the best.
that would be because I feel like it takes like when you kind of see the pattern and you see like the diagonals or the whatever, it kind of takes you away from the landscape, takes you away from the golf course and what you're supposed to see there. So we do a half and half cut now because it's not quite as easy, or just tee times and bodies and all that stuff. So we go counterclockwise and then clockwise the next time. So we kind of try to erase it that way. But my favorite thing was when we would sweep them, when everything was green to tee, because then you also get the grain of the golf ball going
Right.
in.
Right.
Everything's kind of going with the line of play, and it just doesn't really distract you. It's just takes a little time.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that was only something they did at Augusta, so it's cool to hear that other people are adopting it. Last one I got for you here, and I'm sure you've had some late nights, but what is your normal alarm time every morning?
Normal alarm time, probably 4 o'clock. So we start now at 6. Weekends we start at 5:30. Summertimes it's 5:30 during the week and 5. But now, like, I got young kids now, so like you kind of, I got a 6 month old, so like in this summer was like, sleep was just
Yeah, what
not a
was
real
sleep?
thing. It was like 40 minutes. You shut your eyes for a little bit, but so you kind of. But that was like the other thing about having young kids is you've gone through it before, where you've had either like late nights at the Jersey Shore, or you're just, you're trying to do other things and get stuff done around the house till 9 o'clock until you fall asleep, and then the alarm goes off at 2:30, 3 o'clock, like when you're an assistant, and so it's not as bad as it used to be, but yeah, typically 4 o'clock, and now I try to keep that if I want to, work out or just usually now it's like making bottles and putting lunches together and all that fun stuff. So, but yeah, 4 o'clock, it's not too bad. You get used to it.
Are you able to sleep in past that when you get a day off?
Yeah, a little more. But even then, it's like, sleeping until 6 is great,
Big sleep in.
and yeah, that's a big time sleep in. But yeah, you get used to it. My wife is like, it's been like this forever. Like I fall asleep everywhere. Like I
Oh
fall
yeah.
asleep in movies, a Broadway show, dinner, it doesn't matter where we are. Like she'll just look over and be like, "Are you kidding me?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, I didn't fall asleep. No, that wasn't
Yeah.
no."
Resting my eyes.
Yeah.
I love it. Good stuff. Well, we before we let you go, obviously, we've talked about it on this show a couple times, but you are heavily involved in the Super Scratch Foundation as a board member. Talk a little bit about what inspired you to get involved with that organization and kind of, where it's going these days.
Well, I was again lucky enough to kind of get thrown into this, being the getting this job at Huntingdon Valley. The foundation started here. Andrew Mason and Tim Zaribita, who is a member here, his family were members here, and also a golf course superintendent. And then they got Scott Border involved and the other guys, and so the thing had already started to kind of take off, and that was really what inspired me was the passion that these guys had, and really just the mission. When you hear about it, it's hard to not get excited about it, if you really are passionate about what we do and we're passionate about golf, from the member side of things. So my first year was hard to kind of really get involved. I was kind of, first year getting into a new job, and we were putting an irrigation system in and all that stuff. And this year I've really tried to do everything I can to help these guys and grow this thing, and have been happy to have them, give me a little bit more to help out with. And now watching this thing explode has been awesome. And what's going to happen next year feels like it's, again, we're just at the tip of the iceberg here. But anything we can do to provide some education on that and really help to communicate this to the broader community. It's gonna be a self-fulfilling mission if we can get to clubs and we can get to, we kind of talked about that. Like, your average member really doesn't know what you do. I mean, you even talk to people on the board, and whether it's like a doc, and if I'm in the doctor's office and I'm talking to a guy who's a member at some other club, or I'm talking to our own board members, and they're like, "So you cut the greens every day?" Like, it's like you cut and you change the hole location like every day. Like, well, how long does that take? And so it's being able to raise awareness for the industry is great, and to understand that there's this big kind of engine running that you might hear it humming a little bit around the club, but you don't understand that it's really the propeller that's driving the ship. So to raise awareness on what we do and to advocate for that, but also to create demand and create demand for young kids to get into this. I find it so often, and that's why I like to kind of tell my background or anybody's background, because we all come from so many different places, to say to kids, like, yeah, like you may not, like I didn't come from any agriculture. Like I used to cut some lawns and shovel snow in my neighborhood, but I didn't know anything about growing grass. I couldn't drive stick shift. Like I couldn't do anything. But I learned all that, and I loved golf, and I loved people and working on a team and all those kind of things. So to be able to grab a kid on your crew, or to have a different way to attract students at a university, or somebody that may be just kind of tangentially interested, and to give them an easy pathway, and then to help out people that may be in tough situations, or have had hardship, and to be there for those kids and help them out. I've been involved on a couple of boards, and they're great, and it's great networking, but this one is really just, I'm just so excited and proud to be a part of it, and really just want to see this thing explode. So anything we can do to just get in front of people and spread the message and spread the word and advocate the clubs, that's kind of part of the thing. Is like we got to get the superintendent to say, hey, you got to speak up. You got to get out there, and you got to say what this is and why it's important, and it's not a big ask, and it's going to pay a huge dividend if we can market this correctly and open people's eyes. I would love to see a commercial one day on the Masters that's not like, thank a golf course superintendent. It should say, you like golf? Are you sitting on your ass? Do you want to go work? Do you need a job? Like this is a great combination of working with your hands, working a little inside, working a little outside, being on a part of a team. So it would be awesome to get that message out and to create some demand for this industry, and get kids, on these teams, and fill out, throughout the country.
My favorite part of Super Scratch is the fact that it's driven by amateurs. Yes, several superintendents on the board. Obviously, that's an important aspect of it too. But like you mentioned, Andrew Mason and some of the guys there at Huntingdon Valley are really the ones driving that ship as just members of the club, and they've seen what you guys do. They appreciate it, and they want to help the industry. How can a superintendent approach one of their members to then encourage their club to get involved?
So as much as your average member might not know the intricacy of your job or whatever it is, everybody's kind of got that member that does know. Everybody's got that member that gets it, and that gets what you do, and that you have a good relationship with. And now whether that person's on the board or the executive committee, whatever, a former Greens chairman, current Greens chair, whatever it is, you typically know and can identify that person. And whether it's going out and playing around a golf, or it's bringing it up at a Greens committee meeting, sharing some of the information that we might have. What we want to try to do is put together a playbook for guys to say, here's kind of a template and some talking points and what it is to do. But if somebody handed me that, I'd be like, yeah, I don't need this. I'll do it on my own, where most guys are going to be that way, but it's really just encouraging them to say, there's momentum building behind this thing. And find that confidant that you have, find somebody that's going to open that message, and, ask to bring this to the board, ask to bring this to the committee first, and try to rally people behind the cause, which I really just don't think is hard to do once you hear the message. So everybody's got that person that they have a good relationship and that understand, the little bit of the intricacy of the operation, and may know a few of your assistants, and be a guy that kind of pops around the shop and says hi, or drops off some sandwiches or pizza or whatever it is. And start there, and start with that person. Also your general manager, talk to your general manager about this opportunity, and if your general manager should want you to get a little bit more face time as well, and to try to go in there and support this, and it's a great thing for your team. So there's just a lot of ancillary benefits to it. And guys that got into this industry for mentorship and for the helping each other out and growth and development should be right up their alley. It should be right up the alley of kind of turning those talking points into real action.
Tim, I just wanted to highlight you when you were talking about the foundation originally there. I just wanted to highlight the fact that you mentioned a couple times how important it is. This is something that is going to help our industry tenfold year after year. The light it's bringing to what we do, pulling the superintendents and the turf industry into the mainstream of golf, and kind of raising that awareness everywhere, and the fact that it's going to help so many young and up and comers. It is so important. So everything you're doing, everything Brian's doing, everybody else, Scott Bordner and everybody that's there helping, it's huge. You guys just keep pushing it. It's going to grow. Everything we can do to help keep pushing it here, we will, because it is very, very important. So thank you for drawing attention to that.
Well, I appreciate you guys platforming this and helping us out. And, again, we really just feel like we're scratching the surface, and that
No
everybody
pun
talks
intended.
about it.
Yeah, no pun intended.
Yeah, we're going to start selling the big itch, the super scratch, the big itch.
Big itch.
That sounds like the national championship. That needs to be the new name.
The itch. Yeah, there's a hat.
Yeah, I got to give John Goslin credit on that one. That was just off the cuff. He's like, what is it again? The big itch? Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's the super scratch. Yeah.
You think it could ever be?
100%. That needs to be it.
You think it could ever be tied to like a big PGA event or something like that?
It's really hard to know what, but in a couple of years where this is going to be. And I mean, you see that all over now. I mean, especially locally, the Jaywood Platte. So we hosted the Western Am at Exmoor when I was there in 2022, and they're heavily tied in with the Chig Evans Scholarship Foundation. So it's absolutely possible. And you've seen recently, they've given the superintendent, the director of agronomy, a little shout out at the end of these events. So I think that things are going in that direction, and I'm really happy to see that. We're not typically guys that want to, be in the spotlight or, be out there, raising trophies and patting ourselves on the back. But, at the same time, it helps to drive young kids that might be inspired by that, might say, wow, that's really cool. Look at that team of guys, that when the superintendent's standing there with his assistants and his team there with him and his family and all that stuff, it's kind of, obviously we pay attention to it because it's friends and colleagues and whatever, but to try to inspire that and try to grow that would be awesome. It'd be awesome to have some sort of a partnership one day and maybe get a big name as one of our amps, although we've already got a few.
It's a hell of a field. There's no question.
Yeah, Mason's my partner, so it's great for me, man. I don't have to do anything. For
you, that's tough because you get the guy that can't warm up because he's too busy on the registration table and all that. So I mean, you guys. Plus, he's also the chairman or one of the board members, so he technically can't really win, can he?
Well, that's why we need to hire somebody, so I can get Mason to the range at a time. I'm gonna be like, listen, Mason, I got 30 minutes scheduled for you at the range. Or I actually think he'd play worse. He likes to come out, jump out of the car, make a couple bogeys, and then drop like 4 birdies. So it's a nice, cool 67.
Oh man, that's awesome. Gosh, doing it again.
Yeah, we're doing it again.
Yeah.
Well, I always feel like the best warm up's just a nice cold beer. Just get the body going, get the blood moving. Don't waste any good shots on the range. But
that's the superintendent warm up for sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the truth. Yeah, especially like 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah,
Yeah, well, hey, why not?
Yeah.
Well, Tim, you've given us a ton of your time here. The last couple minutes, we always like to open the floor, and if there's anything else you want to talk about, feel free, buddy.
Well, no, I mean, I appreciate you guys. Like I said, with the Super Scratch Foundation, something we're really, really passionate about, and looking forward to continuing to grow this thing. We're coming to a couple different areas, the Midwest, up at Blue Mound and Lakeside Country Club out in LA, and Longboat Key with John Riley down in Florida, and Briggs Ranch, Texas. So it'll be awesome watching this thing and helping to grow it. And all the rest of the shout outs are again, I mean, it's guys that I that took a chance on me or helped me grow and develop. And, from Jim Roney, Mike Broom, Matt Morrow, Matt Rogers, John Goslin, guys that, are maybe, same thing, just working, maybe a little lesser known, but have awesome programs, incredible golf courses. And I have that thing in common where it's investing in your people and growing your team and putting an awesome golf course out there.
And you do have an awesome golf course out there, man. That place is, it's special. I saw a lot of guys cussing you out there during the tournament, though. I mean, that's, firm and fast is a way of life out there, isn't it?
Yeah, man, they printed on T-shirts, and it's like when I came, it was crazy. When I interviewed here, they're like, "You're not going to water, right?" I was like,
"Baby."
Oh, yeah, sure.
I was wondering.
Yeah.
In the job description too, did they have like one of your responsibilities as a board member of Super Scratch? Was that kind of like always a given?
No, well, Mason kind of like, was like, hey, I know you're just getting started, but we want to put this on your radar. I'm like, I'm in, man. I'm in. I already know. I was like, Bordner's already been in my ear, and I said he already set the table. So yeah, I'm in.
That's awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate all your time today, Tim. If there's anything else that comes up between now and Tuesday, let us know.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim. Great to see you, man.
All right. Take care, brother. Turf Today is brought to you by Standard Golf, the folks who keep raising the bar on course tools and accessories. If you haven't tried their Hammer Strike hole cutter yet, you're missing out. Clean cuts, smooth edges, and built tough enough to handle whatever your green throws at it. And what about those laser cut custom metal tee markers? Whew! They're sharp, durable, and completely customizable to match your course branding. Finally, something that we can all get. From tools to finishing touches, Standard Golf's got you covered. That event down in Longboat, John's course, that's going to be no fun whatsoever, eh?
Yeah, dude.
That'd be the one I'd want to go to.
It's going to be a blast. Yeah, I mean, John's a great dude. He does so much for this industry, and yeah, that's going to be a cool event. Obviously lodging there on site with being a part of the resort. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be a blast. I know they tried to do it in the fall, but I think they tried to probably put it together a little too quickly. So postpone it till sometime probably in the spring of 2026. But yeah, man, that's going to be an absolute blast, a destination type event for people to go to. It's easy to get to, flying to Tampa or Sarasota, and it's right there. And once you're on the island, you never have to leave. There's everything you could want right there. So yeah, I can't wait for that one.
Mm-hmm. And I've heard from a couple Canadian superintendents who would love to host the first Super Scratch event in Canada too. So it sounds like you're probably, wherever it ends up landing up here, I'll have a pretty solid golf course to come and play.
Yeah, I love it. Love to hear it. I think, what they're trying to do now is kind of create a model along the lines of what Barstool Sports does with their foreplay. Mm-hmm. I can't remember what the Barstool Scramble or whatever it's called.
Barstool Classic.
Yeah, the Classic. That's it. Yeah, where they have qualifiers all around the country, and then it feeds into the main event, which will now be calling what do you say, the Big Itch or something?
The Big Itch, yeah. It's so good.
Yeah. so have all the top couple teams or whatever qualify from these regional events and go into the national invitational. It's gonna gain traction. The more people hear of it. Tim didn't really go into what it is, but again, I know we've talked about it on here several times, but it's basically a foundation raising money for turf scholarships, and really where they're trying to build is getting money from outside the industry, because I think Scott Bordner talked about it. Really we've been cannibalizing ourselves in this industry for so long, and raising money from the Toros and BASFs and Heralds and all those kinds of people. And they've been so generous with their support for so many different causes within the industry. Now it's time for the people that benefit from the work that superintendents do to kind of help out and pay it forward for the future superintendents to ensure that, they have places to play that are well conditioned, that are managed by highly qualified individuals at the helm in these superintendent and director roles, and then, continue to provide for quality assistance to help them get their education and continue to advance in their own careers. So it's, like we talked about, it's awareness. It's going to take a superintendent to go to their committee, Greens committee, go to that, like Tim said, go to that member that and trust, that understands what you do, all the hard work that you put in. Go to them, tell them about the super scratch, create a plan for the club to support it. We've talked about it again a couple times. I've put some stuff out on the network. There's Lanark in Philly. They get a $10, they bill their members $10 a year. That's it. And with that number of members, you're going to raise thousands of dollars that goes into a pot, which then we're going to be able to give out scholarships to kids going to pursue this as a career. So if we all of a sudden get 100, 200, 300 clubs that are doing that, which you would think like, oh, no big deal. That's easy. I mean, just think of the money that we could raise. I mean, it could get to a point where, they could get to a point where any kid that wants to become a golf course superintendent may have a full ride. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's 1,000 kids going to turf programs or something right now on an annual basis. If you get a couple hundred clubs investing whatever it is into this foundation, no kid's going to leave college with a loan that they have to worry about repaying. It's just, I'm so excited about that. And, I get to see a lot of these different programs around the country when I'm out and about. And, as soon as I heard about this organization, as soon as I went to my first event, like I was just all in. Like, what do you guys need? How can we help?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just limitless opportunity there. And it's just doing so much good for the industry, and it's helping so many kids. It's just, I just can't wait to see where this thing is in 5 years.
Well, looking back 5 years ago, do you think more people know what golf course maintenance is now?
No, absolutely not. I still don't
still
think
stuck there.
No, I mean, I still don't think as many people know what they should about what this industry does for golf courses. It's, I think it's better. We had this conversation, I think, with Darren Davis last year when Darren was on. I think it's better. I think more people recognize it as a profession, but I've got buddies of mine that will text me with like the most asinine questions. I'm like, really? Like, you've been golfing your entire life. You played collegiately. You worked on the inside, as a bag boy or something growing up, or as an assistant pro out of college, like, and you still don't know what they do and why they're doing certain things.
Get it together.
Are you serious, dude? So, yeah, I mean, I'm still blown away that people you think would understand the why behind a lot of the things that superintendents and maintenance teams need to do. I'm just still blown away how little people understand it, and I think, when Barstool did that behind the greens, that was the coolest thing for our industry. They got to see what happens. Why they stopped doing that, I have no idea. YouTube golf is huge. Unfortunately, YouTube golf course maintenance isn't yet, and that's certainly something that you and I are trying to do is get that a little bit more in the forefront. But yeah, man, there's still a long way to go.
I remember being in a hockey dressing room one time and chatting with a few guys, and the guy goes, "So what do you do?" And I said, "Oh, I'm golf course superintendent." And he was just like, "So like you drive around the city making sure all the golf courses are like working together and stuff?" I said, "No, that's a school superintendent." I said, "Like, I'm more of a property manager." We run a crew, and so you guys cut the grass. And it was just like, yeah, we cut the grass. Exactly.
Yeah. That's usually one of my favorite questions to ask. And I need to get back to doing it more. Is just like, how do you describe what you do to your friends? Like,
it's true.
When you're at a party, like, it's same exact thing as you're just saying, people are like, golf course super, huh? What is that?
Yeah. What could you
It's just
possibly
like,
do with that's a job?
yeah,
Man,
exactly,
my favorite one
exactly.
is, well, what do you do in the winter? Like,
Yeah,
what are you going to do there? Well, I go to the golf course every day. Well, yeah, but what could you possibly be doing there? There's a lot to do. We've been
yeah,
so busy
yeah.
all year. There's a lot of stuff we have backed up right now.
Yeah, no, it's not 5 months of vacation. That's for
No,
sure. That's for
no.
sure. It's a little easier in the winter. Don't get me wrong, right? It's a little, in most instances, it's a little easier in the winter, but at least in the north. But yeah, no, it's not a 5 month paid vacation. That's for sure.
No. And I wonder if for a long time there's been a little bit of that pride in our job, in our industry. I know when I lived in Anchorage, Alaska, it's not a very big place, but it's one of the
Yeah,
most beautiful spots in the world, like
yeah,
just breathtaking. And the locals there would tell people, when you go down to the southern states, don't tell people how great it is up here. We don't want people visiting up here. We don't want more people moving up here. They wanted to
yeah,
keep it for themselves. So I wonder
yeah,
if our industry's had a little bit about that. We love this so much.
yeah,
We understand it so well. It's kind of for us. Why bring it to the broader, mainstream people? Let's just kind of keep it for us,
yeah,
but
yeah.
you run into that fact where there's not enough people because we've kind of sheltered it so much and we
Yeah.
really got to pull it into the mainstream.
Yeah. I wish that was the case, that we were purposefully trying to keep it a secret. I think it probably boils down to more that people get into this side of the business for a reason, right? They they usually don't like being front facing. There's certainly many exceptions to that rule, but and again, we've talked about it on here, and it's one of the things that when I go to different association events to give a presentation, that's always one of the key points I try to put out there is, we've got to tell the story. You have to be the one that is telling your story and talking about what you do, whether there's issues or not issues or whatever. You've got to be forward facing. You've got to be you've got to be in control of the narrative, because otherwise guys are going to come off the golf course. They're going to go talk to, whoever the first person is that they talk to, whether it's the guy cleaning their clubs or the guy behind the counter, or a guy or gal behind the counter in the pro shop. And they're going to have no idea why things are the way they are out on the golf course. So we've got to be more in control of our story. We've got to control the narrative, spend time in the locker room, spend time on the first tee, talk to members. A newsletter doesn't do it, right?
No.
I'm the same way. I get an email, I get a newsletter from an organization that I belong to or whatever it may be. Chances are I'm probably not reading it because I've got 3,000 emails right now in my inbox that I have yet to get to, and it's going to get overlooked. You've got to be there. You've got to be talking to your members. You've got to be talking to your leadership team. Obviously, hopefully they are. I'm sure most people have those weekly staff meetings or whatever it may be, but you gotta be out there. People need to know your face. They need to know who you are. They need to understand what you do. They need to understand your challenges. And if you're not doing that, that means someone else is telling your story. And that's just the nature of this industry.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think there's also been a lot of that negative feeling towards your own job. It's like, oh, what do you do for a living? Well,
Yeah.
I'm a golf course superintendent, but none of you understand that. So none of you are really going to get what I do. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like, do I really want to tell them? Do I really want to go into this again? Do I really want to start being proud of your job? Like, we have
Yeah.
awesome jobs. We're in an awesome industry. This is a great career for your whole life. Start being proud of it. Who cares how much money you make or what
Yeah.
people think about it or what people understand about it? It's part
Yeah.
of your life. You should be proud of it. You work hard. You have, you wear your golf course's logo all the time. You should be proud of what you do. So who cares what
Yeah.
people think? It's going to change, and as long as you're in it and you're enjoying it, that's all that matters.
Having handed out many turf scholarships over my years in association management, I can't tell you how many students that I've talked to where they were questioning whether or not to get into this industry because the person they went and interned for was trying to talk them out of it.
Mm,
So I think there was a period of time where we really shot ourselves in the foot, because of, the superintendent that may not have been in the right position, or, just in the right situation for them. So they were upset or whatever. And you don't want to do this. You don't want to work these hours. You don't want to have to deal with members. You don't have to want to deal with whatever it may be. And there was certainly a period of time where that discouraged kids from getting into this business, and we're kind of paying for that now.
hmm
But the conversation I have with with everyone. You know, there's a fit for everybody. If you love golf, if you love being outside, if you don't mind manual labor, if you don't mind the elements, this is an incredibly rewarding career. And I say that as never been a golf course superintendent in my life, but I've been around it now for 40 some years as having grown up in this industry and dedicating the last 15 years of my life to promoting this industry. There's a fit for everybody there. You know, if you want tournament, if you want the adrenaline rush of hosting tournaments, you know, that's probably going to come with longer hours and, you know, all that kind of stuff. If you want 40 to 50 hours a week, there are plenty of golf courses for that too. And I think even at the higher end courses, I'm seeing it more and more these days where they're not pushing 80 hours a week. You know, they're starting to understand if you're going to push someone 80 hours a week, you're not going to necessarily find the talent pool out there that's willing to do that. And so they are pulling it back a little bit, realizing that, okay, we don't have to do that. We can tackle it in more creative ways. And so I am definitely seeing that shift as I travel around, where it's getting away from that grueling schedule the way that it used to be, where you felt like you had to be there sun up to sundown. Certainly still some places that do that, and there's nothing against it. That's the way they are. But there's a fit for everybody. It's a great industry. I am the recipient of this industry, and I have received just an incredible life because of this industry. And it's the reason I do what I do every single day.
100%. I know a lot of people feel that like the golf courses kind of save their lives and you know, save their careers and their family and stuff. So it's a very important place. And
you think of all the benefits of it, right? You think of all the benefits. You're outdoors, you know, it's a great escape, and the team side of it, right? I mean, that's everyone that comes on this show talks about the relationships that they developed through this business. And I mean, me personally, my best friends are people I've met through this business. You know, I've got my neighbors and I've got a lot of friends outside of it too. But if I'm going out on a Thursday night, or if I'm going to meet guys, you know, for a happy hour or something, it's usually guys in our industry that I'm reaching out to. You know, it's just you have the opportunity to create so many phenomenal friendships through this industry. And I've been very, very lucky. And I know you have too, Adam. We've created so many friendships through this show, through my travels and superintendent network, through my time managing associations. Just created so many friendships and memories that'll last a lifetime. And, you know, people, when I'm going to California or Texas or wherever it may be, that I can reach out to, I'm like, hey man, I'm in your area. Love to grab a drink. Little jab at Mike Rollins for being in Columbus, Ohio, and not reaching out to me. Son of a.
Oh, you're 100% right. We've met so many great people in this, and I feel like with our job, you know, we roll every week, so we're talking to new people every week, and that's important. You know, if there's people that have been on the show and you feel like, you know, we've forgotten about you or whatever, that's not the case. Anybody that's been on the show, anybody we've talked to through Turf Today or Superintendent Network, we hold you in a high regard. We see you guys as friends and huge people in this industry. So we're always available. We're always here to chat. Can't wait to catch up with a ton of you when we get down to the show in Orlando. You know, like Brian said, we've made so many friendships, and it's a long road ahead. So we're always here for all of you guys. It's fast paced with what we do, and we talk to a lot of people and a lot of touch points and stuff like that. But every friend we gain every week. You know, it's just another person that we have in our contact list and people we can lean on.
Yep. And I give Mike Rollins shit. I don't mean I certainly understand, you know, from a travel perspective. Like there are so many times where I'll be in a buddy's neck of the woods. It's like, God, I'd love to go grab dinner or a drink or something. I don't have time, you know, and that's unfortunately kind of that's the downside of traveling is there's never enough time to reach out and see the people that, you know, that are your friends and have helped you and all that. But, yeah, it's just it's an amazing community, and wouldn't trade it for anything. I know people are probably tired of hearing us say it, but it's just the God honest truth. I mean, it's just the absolute best industry, the best people to work with, and like you said, there's so many more out there. I was having that conversation with someone the other day. I'm like, thinking of all the courses that we haven't been to, the people from facilities we haven't talked to, like, my God, like there's an endless amount of people that we can talk to on a daily basis, and places to visit and all that. It's just, it's
keep
just
growing,
amazing.
and you think about all the youth too. There's so many young up and comers,
Oh man, it's
boys
the
and
best.
girls that are going through school that are, and they're riding that new wave of technology. So they're all posting stuff on social media. They're all kind of, watching different things. I think there's going to be a lot more, studying of what the industry actually does with a lot of the up and comers, because it's going to be a big shift with the technology and everything that's kind of changing. So
yes, it is. Yeah,
but yeah, I think you're right.
School set.
For the 6 people that are still listening to us right now at the end of this long podcast, we love you guys. We appreciate everything you guys do, and we're gonna keep this thing rolling.
Yeah, man. Great show. We'll catch up soon.
Sounds good, buddy.
All right, man. Later.
Keep those reels sharp, everybody. We'll see you next week.